case you haven't noticed, we skipped last Tuesday because instead of doing them every Tuesday, we're going to do it every other Tuesday. Makes it easier on me. I don't want to overload everybody. And so I guess we're going to call it Tabletop every other Tuesday or every other Tabletop Tuesday. That's what we'll do. So yeah, you like that? All right. We're back for another one. Today, as you see here, this is I did it again like Britney Spears. All right. I have my yellow mouse, my bouncing mouse, so we could sing a song. Doot, 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 doot. All right. So last episode, we finished up our Stargate command. We're going to do a water treatment plant this time. And we've got 2 return victims. We've got Gregor back and we've got Peter back. So I'm gonna admit something right now. And it's been so long since I've done any type of cybersecurity work in water facilities. And this is we're talking a couple decades ago. So my expertise is not in water, and I'm wondering if either you have done any work in water treatment plants.
Paper mills, so yes, a bit of water, but not that scale.
Paper mills. I've got some customers. Let me adjust my camera. All right. I've got some partners that work in the paper and pulp industry. What about you, Peter?
Haven't had. I do know someone who works in that industry, but I don't have a lot of skills. In Australia in 1994, one of the very first critical infrastructure attacks was an insider in a water treatment plant in I'd say which state, but that was the first time we ever encountered it, which was an interesting one. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, then we'll just start this one with the disclaimer that, hey, if any of you watching have experience in water treatment plants, just let us know if you want to join. We've got another slot here. We can have you join. But so this is going to be done from the perspective of cybersecurity analysts, ICS, OT cybersecurity professionals with not much experience in water wastewater. So why are we doing water wastewater? Because it was actually requested that we do, and it's not so much. It's not so important. I mean, here's the thing: this is a learning opportunity for all of us, right? And so we are not. We can actually just sort of pretend here that, hey, we all just got hired to be cybersecurity experts for this water treatment plant, and we have ICS experience, but we're new to water or wastewater, and this is gonna be great. So, good morning to you too, Alex. Good evening for me. Or yeah, Truman Show. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever. All right, so let's get this started from a threat perspective. And the one thing I want to specify here is that however, the goal of the attacker is to get to the control systems and cause something bad there. That's it. Okay. Regardless of the initial attack vector.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and so I do want to also mention that this is probably the last time everyone will see this version of Auto Tabletop. It's going to be getting an upgrade next week, so with some interesting things. So we'll see how that turns out. And then company, yeah, we are a water treatment plant, and then the IT staff is, we'll just say whatever is appropriate for this organization. Cybersecurity staff. Here we go. There are 3 of us. We have ICS, cybersecurity experience, but we are new to water systems. We were just hired by this organization. That was a typo, not a misspelling. All right. And I'll just say this exercise is just with us three. You play the part of everyone else. All right. Just say here, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say whatever is appropriate for this organization. And I'm just going to leave that blank. Win condition will be there. We have somebody else joining us. I was hoping he would show up. There we go.
Is there a, well, can you
How
go
are you?
to that?
Do you want to introduce yourself or do you want to dox you? Uh-oh. He's not speaking.
Section where it explains the configuration of each of those.
Oh, anyway, I think you're disclosing sensitive data in the background. Here.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I'll mute you until you get your audio working. Okay. I'm not going to say use his name. I invited him. I'm not going to use his name unless he comes on and introduces himself, though. All right. So the loss condition, this will be very specific, right? So, I'm clicking on the wrong thing. I think this one will be we lose if significant. We lose
Pressure.
if there is a significant impact to water or water systems. There we go. All right. I'm going to export this because I might want to use this later. So I exported that. I can pick that up as a scenario later. We're going to save it. We're going to get started. Start new exercise. Ba-dow. And, okay, so this is going to be, oh, come on. That's not what I wanted to do. Water treatment plant. Okay. That wasn't too bad. All right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to pull this away now. And let's let our narrator narrate. And go, narrator. Go, narrator.
Introduction. Welcome to today's Incident Response Tabletop exercise. As your facilitator, I'm here to guide and challenge you through a simulated cybersecurity incident, leveraging a scenario tailored to a water treatment plant. Your role as the cybersecurity staff, alongside my guidance, will be to navigate the incident, making decisions and taking actions as if in a real-world situation. This is an opportunity to practice coordinating as a team, applying your cybersecurity knowledge to a new context, and refining your incident response capabilities. Remember, I'm here to assist, provide injects, and simulate outcomes based on your team's decisions. If you need advice, don't hesitate to ask. Let's work together to secure the water systems and learn from the experience. Setting the stage. Your team is part of a water treatment plant that plays a critical role in providing clean and safe water to a large metropolitan area. The IT and cybersecurity infrastructure are typical for a facility of this kind, with an emphasis on operational technology, OT, and industrial control systems, ICS, to manage water treatment and distribution processes. The IT staff are experienced with the general IT needs of the facility, while the cybersecurity staff, consisting of you three, are freshly onboarded experts in ICS cybersecurity, specifically now applying your experience to water systems. The environment includes a mix of traditional IT and OT networks, with critical systems isolated but interconnected for monitoring and control purposes. Scenario. The incident begins early on a Monday morning when the facility's IT help desk starts receiving reports from several users experiencing unusually slow network performance. Concerns escalate when monitoring tools alert to abnormal traffic patterns consistent with large file transfers within the OT network, which is unusual given the secured and isolated nature of this environment. To compound the situation, 2 operational alarms are triggered, one indicating a potential malfunction in the chemical treatment process, and another in water distribution pressure controls. No specifics are provided on the cause or extent of these malfunctions, or whether they are directly related to the network anomalies. Your objective is to identify, classify, isolate, eradicate, and recover from this incident without significant impact to the water or the water systems, ensuring public safety and infrastructure integrity. Your exercise starts now.
Oh my.
So real quick, I just gotta say a couple things. All right, so our other guest that joined, let's see, are you going to be able to join us? Let's see. All right, do you have your audio working? Are you going to join us here?
They provide a sample.
I don't think so.
You pick a couple tickets out.
All right, it sounds like they're just listening. Also, I left a message in chat, but I think he's on LinkedIn, so he can't see it. I can only send chat to YouTube. So I'm going to ask Bruce. I see you in the chat there, Bruce. And if you want to join us, Bruce, I can give you the link if you would like to join. If not, don't worry about it. So just let us know, and I'll wait for your answer, and then the rest of us will proceed here. So sounds like that they're trying to mess with the chemical systems. Okay, all right. So our other guest is just listening in. Okay, so it looks like they're trying to mess with the chemical systems. Is what that sounds like? What it looks like maybe there was going on in Florida with that thing, and then the other was pressure systems. They're trying to overpressurize something. So, what do you guys think? You guys have been down this road a couple of times, and you guys have already joined us on a couple of these. So I'm going to let you guys participate more on this, and I'm just going to be some overall guidance, and and your typist.
Like that.
Okay.
Personally, I think we should check for the chemical and the water distribution pressure and see if we can switch them to manually so that we can get a hold of them. So the center technician over there. Peter, sorry.
So, there's 2 kind of types of plants. There's a DWT P, which is a water treatment plant, or a wastewater treatment plant. So we might want to initially identify which systems that we have in play here.
Okay. So, yeah. So, all right. Are we dealing with the, what was it? The treatment systems?
Yes, or waste.
Yeah, WWTP wastewater plant, and a DTWP. DWTP is a drinking water. So there's 2. One's concerned with quality of drinking water coming from the external environment. The other one is removing impurity, maintaining EPA standards and that from wastewater and stormwater and that.
Is this how big? Is this how big the text was last time we did this, or is it a little smaller?
It's all right for me.
Okay, if it's okay for everybody else, let me know. I think I can go.
It's not about size.
That's what we need right there. Okay, let me just adjust my. I think that's the size we've had it in the past. Hold on. I have to. Let me just adjust this real quick, because I think that's going to be easier for everyone to read. Ay. I say it was all good, and then next thing you know is, I'm screwing it all up. I apologize for my technical deficiencies, everyone. All right, and this is all, I'm going to blame this on Alex. There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think this is the size we've had it before. That's much better. Okay. Oh, all
And
right. So
also
what
we
else?
need to check for the error message. So they said that some wait a sec, not abnormal traffic patterns we need to check, and the messages that they received. Where did they say it just now?
All right. So we have somebody saying it's a drinking water plant. Is that what? Oh, did it say that up above? Did I miss that? I was
Yes,
messing with.
yeah, they're
Okay.
already mercenary details now.
Okay. All right. Okay. So it's a drinking water plant. So we don't need all that. What systems then? Right there. All right. What were you saying there, Gregor? Oh, you're muted.
The monitoring tool, they alerted about the abnormal traffic patterns. Can we see where that comes from, and do we have an SOC analyst check that? What else did it give us? I don't know. It's
And there we go. Look, because do we even have a SIM?
Good question, actually.
Yeah.
This is a critical infrastructure when we need to contact authorities, or at least the plant owners, to say, hey, there's
Yeah.
something immediately wrong.
So yeah, because I mean, are at this point. So at this point, I mean, can we just go ahead and formally declare that it's an incident? Because I mean, we're already. I mean, it just told us straight up that we're already seeing stuff. So yeah. So let's formally declare an incident and notify key stakeholders and I'm hungry. All right.
Stakeholders.
They're out having a barbecue in the backyard.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's go with this. I'm a stakeholder. Look at me. Yeah, I should have the latency on the audio fixed next week as well.
Nice.
All right. S4, my S4 mug. You can't see it because it's magic, but S4 mug. So I'll be at S4. Make sure everybody. Let's see. We're gonna. I'll wait until it starts reading.
1. Technician to water systems. A technician is dispatched to inspect the water systems for any signs of manual interference or malfunction. They confirm that both the chemical treatment and water distribution pressure controls appear to be operational, but note that the systems are behaving erratically, likely due to digital interference rather than a mechanical failure. The technician confirms that manual override is possible, but advises caution as switching to manual control without understanding the full scope of the issue could lead to human error or further complications. 2. Investigation of abnormal traffic patterns. Your team has access to a Security Operations Center, SOC, with a small team of analysts. Yes, you do have a security information and event management, CM, system in place. The SOC analysts begin to dive into the CM for insights into the abnormal traffic patterns. Initial findings show that there are indeed large and unusual file transfers occurring, originating from several systems within the OT network. These file transfers are not part of the regular operational data flow and seem to be directed towards external IP addresses, suggesting a potential exfiltration of data. 3. Formal incident declaration and notification. Recognizing the seriousness of the situation, you formally declare an incident and begin the process of notifying key stakeholders and management. The notification outlines the initial findings, including network abnormalities, potential data exfiltration, and the impact on operational systems. It stresses the ongoing investigation and the steps being taken to mitigate the situation. Current status. A technician has verified system functionality and the possibility of manual override, with caution advised. the SOC is actively investigating the abnormal network traffic, identifying potential data exfiltration. An incident has been formally declared, and key stakeholders are being notified. Next steps. Your team needs to decide on the next course of action, including how to proceed with the information from the SOC and whether to transition any systems to manual control, keeping in mind the risks involved. Further investigation into the source of the traffic and the potential exfiltration paths may also be necessary. Inject. Lead engineer unavailable. As your team considers further technical steps, you find that the lead engineer responsible for the design and integration of the OT systems is currently on PTO and unreachable. This might delay some decisions that require deep technical insights into the OT systems. Your move.
Hold on, we're echoing. So I think that lead engineer took a vacation to Australia. So Peter, I'm going to task you to go hunt that person down, and I'm going to bring in our friend Bruce while you hunt him down. So bye. Just kidding. All right. Hola. Hello. Are you with us?
I think so. Let me just see. Hold on.
All right. We'll let you get that squared away. And all right, as we get forward, I just realized I missed a bunch of LinkedIn messages from you that I didn't see, so I'll address those later, Bruce. All right. What are we doing? So
I'm not. Clint, am I in or no?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
There you go.
Hi, everybody. Nice to join.
Hey.
All right. So we had our status read to us. And so I guess it looks like we have an engineer that's unavailable. We have our SOC analysts looking into the abnormal traffic patterns. What I don't understand is I don't think if their intent is going for the control systems, you wouldn't normally see a lot of exfiltrated data, I guess, unless there's a bunch of system designs and or something like that.
Yeah. I don't want to disrupt the whole flow, but I just want to kind of poke in a couple of things here that do happen, and I'm not sure if the scenario has to be reset. So, you just decide what to do. So first of all, with most of the contemporary water facilities, at least in the US right now, there is a very significant separation between the control networks and the enterprise, right? So it's definitely following Purdue model. The second thing that's related to that is depending on the facility, if it's built, for example, with Rockwell Automation, Allen Bradley PLCs, you do have the ability to do a 62443 zones and conduit build, which separates each of the control zones. And that gives you good isolation between the zones, right? So again, I don't know if you want to try to meld that in, if we can poke that into the scenario builder, but you do have those separations is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, in my experience, those separations are not always infallible. And, there are different ways it could lead into that, but let's just let it ride and see what happens with it. And so
but I do want to add one thing that is like a vector, because that's what I was saying in the chat. On the negative side, and we could maybe play with this a little bit, because the equipment is highly specialized, the operators don't have the skill set to properly tune those systems. Like a good example is there's a complicated system called a membrane bioreactor, right? So you have to have external channels to engineering support, either the OEM and or the system integrator external to an operation to do that kind of tuning and ongoing monitoring of the system. So that's your external attack surface vector potentially. And depending on the security build of your engineering firm that's supporting it, if they get hacked, then you're going to have hack coming in through that channel, right? So just be aware that that's also in play from a negative side, if that makes sense what I'm saying.
Let's do this. And what was that? You said the
Yeah, there's a good example is there's a system in water called a membrane bioreactor. It's especially for wastewater treatment plants. So it's just filtering out the disgusting material, right? Yeah. Right.
Okay.
But it's a
I'm
highly
gonna ask
specialized piece of equipment is all I'm saying. Right? Yeah.
We'll see if it even knows about that. I'm just going to ask that for now.
Yeah. Sounds good.
And
see where
Clint,
that
the other
goes.
aspect here could be the exfiltration could be a distraction to the IT staff to the wrong problem.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And Clint, one more that I will mention here, because maybe the engine, knows about this.
Water treatment facility does utilize a membrane bioreactor, MBR system for wastewater treatment, which is a critical component of your operations. This system, like several other key systems within the plant, is monitored and occasionally maintained by external vendors under strict contractual agreements. These agreements include provisions for remote access to allow vendors to perform diagnostics, updates, and maintenance tasks. Access is supposed to be closely monitored and controlled through a combination of VPNs, multi-factor authentication, MFA, and scheduled access windows. Given the current situation, this vendor access could potentially be a vector for the observed anomalies, whether through compromise of the vendor systems or misuse of access by an insider threat. However, without further investigation, it is premature to draw firm conclusions. The SOC team can focus on analyzing the logs related to these external vendor connections, particularly looking at any access attempts or activities that occurred recently, which could correlate with the timeline of the network anomalies and operational system alerts. Next steps. Would you like the SOC team to prioritize investigating the external vendor connections for any signs of compromise or unauthorized activity? Or are there other actions you deem necessary at this juncture?
All right. Sorry, Bruce. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I can't pause the narration and then restart it. That's a feature I'm going to add in. But yeah. So it looks like there's our answer. And from your nodding, it looks like it met with your expectations.
It does. There's one more that I might add here. We could try it and see what it comes back with and this is what I was writing to you earlier about, some of those connections to the external vendors, as well as there are alarm channels where a SCADA head end will send outbound alarms to either the engineering third party or the operators right? And it's going through sometimes fairly sophisticated, but they're still ISP gateways, right?
Right.
And the key takeaway is, and this is what we may want to ask the system, the engine, it uses a protocol, this is a telecommunications thing for the carriers called TR069. And that just allows the telecommunication companies like Charter to do remote management of those gateways. If you don't configure the TR069 correctly in the gateway, that becomes an attack surface, is basically what I wanted to bring into play there. So that could also be a vector, right?
How would I
And
ask
there have
that?
been
Do
some
we
attacks
have
that I've heard about with TR69, right?
So is it like that TR069? Is there a dash there?
There's a dash, TR-069, and it's been around for about 15, 20 years. It's whatever. It's like when you have your home modem. That's how they get into the remote connection to manage your modem, right? Yeah. But it's also at some of these facilities, is all I'm saying.
Right. So do we want to prioritize right now the SOC team to look at external vendor connections to see if that's where there might be a vector or,
I would probably say there would be two things I could see. That would be one, but with the control networks especially, they can operate islanded, let's call it. So you could basically cut those channels off while you're doing the forensics on the vendor side, and your plant will still operate, so you're kind of containing the situation, right?
Right. So yeah, and our lead engineer is gone, so we can't I guess they can't go out there and check things manually, but I guess we should have some engineers that can go out there. So we'll have it prioritize the vendor connections. We'll say, also, and then let's see if we have any other, are there any other vendors that can go check the systems physically while the lead engineer is out in Melbourne?
And while that happens, we know about the outbound traffic, but we haven't yet found the machines where it came from, so we can directly check what's wrong with those systems.
Yeah, and I agree. We should add it. There's a comment in chat that asks, can we disconnect any vendor connections that are monitoring purposes only? Yeah, let's disconnect any non-critical system, or let's say it this way. Let's connect any systems. Disconnect any remote connections that aren't necessary for operations at this time.
Yeah, and you definitely can do that, at least for the ones that I've been involved with. And this is maybe a better way of what I was trying to say. The PLC often connects by analog or serial to the equipment. So you have that, but then the PLC is going to have maybe Ethernet IP going up to the SCADA head ends. You don't really need even that channel up to the SCADA system, because the PLCs will do their thing basically naturally to the equipment side. So you can, certainly cut off that monitoring for sure. Yeah.
Right. Yep. All right. Well, let's send this, see what it says, and then there was something else I was going to say, and I forgot. But we'll see. The other thing too is do we start investigating ourselves? Not investigating ourselves, but forensically, do we start investigating, or do we call in some support? I guess that's what we were hired for, right? We were hired to do the forensics, but
I would say that the focus should be prioritized to stabilizing the operations first, and you could get
because we need to stabilize operations, and we need to make sure we isolate too as well. And so, all right, I think our there we go.
1. SOC prioritization of vendor connections. The SOC team immediately prioritizes the investigation of external vendor connections. They start by reviewing access logs for any unusual activity, specifically looking for access patterns that do not conform to the expected maintenance schedules or have not gone through the usual multi-factor authentication steps. Concurrently, a directive is sent out to temporarily disconnect or suspend any remote connections to external vendors that are not critical to ongoing operations. This move is aimed at reducing the potential attack surface and mitigating the risk of unauthorized access through these vectors. A few non-critical remote sessions are identified and terminated, with the relevant vendors notified of the action and the reasoning due to the ongoing security incident. 2. Remote Communications Protocol, TR-069. Yes, your facility does utilize the TR069 protocol for remote management of networked equipment, primarily for configurations and updates. Given its role in remote communications, there's a potential risk if it has been exploited to facilitate unauthorized access or operations within the network. The SOC team includes the review of TR069 activity in their investigation, scrutinizing any commands or configurations changes made recently through this protocol for any signs of malicious activity. 3. Physical inspection by alternate vendors. With the lead engineer on PTO and unreachable, efforts are made to identify alternative vendors or service providers who may be able to conduct a physical inspection of the identified systems, especially those that are showing signs of malfunction or have been indicated by the SOC's preliminary findings as potentially compromised. A trusted vendor with whom your company has previously worked on similar systems and who has the necessary security clearances and experience is contacted. They agree to send a qualified technician to the site by the next day. This action aims to ensure that there is no delay in physically securing and assessing the integrity of critical systems, especially in light of the lead engineer's unavailability. Current status. The SOC has initiated a focused investigation into vendor connections, specifically scrutinizing access patterns and the use of TR069. Non-essential remote connections to external vendors have been temporarily suspended to mitigate risk. An alternative vendor has been arranged to perform a physical inspection of potentially compromised systems, with a technician expected to arrive the following day. Next steps. While efforts are underway to investigate external vectors and physically secure critical systems, it may be prudent to consider additional internal security measures, review incident response plans, and prepare for contingencies based on the outcomes of these actions. Would you like to take any specific actions next, such as further network segmentation, communicating with stakeholders, or preparing public communications?
I don't think. Hold on. Yeah, I don't think we need a. I guess we can prepare public statements, but we don't have like any major incident yet. We don't have any. I mean, there's an incident, but there's no major impact yet. And I think that I know that we were hired to be the cybersecurity, but we're not a DFIR team, and I don't think we have any DFIR. I think we should call in a DFIR team to do the actual analysis, the forensics, but also, it says, would you like to do further network segmentation? I guess it means, do you want to isolate? Because like you can't like redesign your network in the middle of an incident. But
No. Yeah, the thing is, we haven't got any real information yet. It's like,
yeah,
so yes, absolutely, we need the DFIR, but where do we send them to?
yeah. So let's do this.
The other thing,
so
Clint. Sorry. Yeah, the other thing
Yeah.
there, Clint. We haven't covered off the angle of any potential insider threats there. Either,
Yeah.
and that was mentioned further. Need to review recent exit interviews for disgruntled employees.
Yeah.
Well, one thing, going back to the announcement part, it's probably jumping the shark to do any public announcements, but it would be recommended to notify, say, some, depending on the region, I'd say almost like a city environmental division, just to give them a little notice that there might be something going on. It's really more of a relationship, respect kind of thing,
Yeah.
and they'll
And
keep
then
that they'll keep that quiet. They're just gonna, they don't want to be blindsided is basically where I'm going, right?
yeah, and the chat agrees. Somebody says, I think there needs to be a public communication. So yeah, we need to begin working with our PR and legal teams to start drafting,
like a water
communicate.
resources board, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and also prepare to notify any external regulatory authorities. All right, well, let's start there and see what we get back. Yeah, I can't do anything about the inference time, the time that it takes to get an answer back, but I could but I can speed up the time it takes for the voice to start after we get the inference. So the chat says, I'd also like to request SOC to find out which systems are in play related to file transfer. Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to find out too. So I'm hoping to find that out here. If not, we'll ask that specifically. Requested from chat there. So, okay. In a way, and I'll shut up if she starts talking, but if you've ever played D&D, you want to be careful about what you say that might give the dungeon master ideas. And so I'm wondering if this is the same thing. Like, it might have not known about the TR-69 if,
and team actions. 1. SOC findings. The SOC team reports that their analysis of the vendor connections, particularly those facilitated through TR-69, has revealed several unauthorized access attempts that occurred outside of scheduled maintenance windows. They were successful in tracing these attempts back to compromised vendor credentials, which suggests that an external entity may have leveraged this access for malicious purposes. Moreover, during their investigation of the network anomalies, the SOC team identified a pattern of communication between several internal systems within the OT network and external IP addresses known to be associated with malicious actors. This communication correlates with the timing of the detected network abnormalities and operational system alerts, indicating a probable internal system compromise. 2. Internal systems compromise. Your team, working alongside the SOC, cross-reference CM logs, system alerts, and network traffic analyses to narrow down the affected systems. You identify several critical control systems in the OT network that have been communicating with external IPs as part of this suspicious activity. Immediate steps are taken to isolate these systems from the network to prevent further unauthorized access or communication. The isolation process aims to contain the potential damage and prevent the spread of any malicious software or breach to other parts of the network. 3. Engagement with PR and legal teams. Recognizing the potential impact and the need for clear communication, you engage with the plant's public relations PR and legal teams to start crafting communications for both the public and any affected parties. This includes drafting an initial statement that balances transparency with the need to avoid causing undue alarm. It outlines that an incident has been detected and is being actively managed, with further updates to follow as more information becomes available. Parallel to crafting public communications, preparations are made to notify external regulatory authorities in compliance with industry standards and legal requirements. The emphasis is on ensuring that all notifications are timely, accurate, and in line with your organization's obligations under the law and regulatory frameworks. Current status: unauthorized access through compromised vendor credentials and internal system compromises identified and isolated. SOC, alongside your team, continues to monitor for any additional suspicious activity and secure the network. Communications with PR and legal teams initiated to manage external messaging and regulatory notifications. Next steps. With critical systems isolated and efforts underway to manage external communications and legal obligations, focus may now need to shift towards eradicating the threat from the compromised systems, investigating the root cause, and planning for the recovery of affected systems. Additionally, revisiting and potentially enhancing security measures to prevent similar incidents in the future will be crucial. Would you like to initiate actions towards eradication and recovery or focus on further securing the network infrastructure?
So one thing I want to say first, real quick, is the reason why like it went ahead and did the isolation without us prompting it to do so was because we did tell it that it's playing the part of everyone else but us three. So they just kind of took that initiative. We didn't direct that. That was somebody basically told them to do that. So they did that. I don't really know what the status of the actual control systems are right now. It doesn't. I don't think that there is any. I guess we have to wait for the vendor to come and check that out. So, what is the current status of the control systems and any impact? And the reason why is I'm going to ask, how much time has passed, because we have to wait for the next day for the alternate engineer to get here.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring something in here that just has to do with the equipment again. In most of the plants that I've been involved with, in the design and the testing and tuning of the equipment, the specialized equipment, uh, the engineering teams with the state with the utilities do a lot of failure modes, effects analysis. So they're kind of anticipating already the failure of digital equipment. So you'll have a combination of digital equipment. You'll also have just level sensors, pumps, just measurement of water levels. And all of that's built into the system because they do anticipate that the digital equipment will, go bonkers anyway, regardless of a cyber. Just the equipment may fail. So you have those as backstops, is all I'm saying. And the plants typically are not going to just all of a sudden belch water all over the place, is all I'm saying, right? The valves shut off and that's, they're pneumatic and whatever, right? In addition to digital controls, you have both, right? So it takes care of business, just in terms of the equipment, right? Which is good. That you want that.
Now,
It's multiple safeguards, modalities, right? Yeah, right. We might do one thing here. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Bruce. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say we might have a little fun with one thing. We might have a little fun with one thing here on the communication side, and this may be leaning toward a corrective action. If you want to put this in, I'll let you decide, Clint.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that somebody in the SOC, whoever, it doesn't matter who, found that there was no communication runbook that specify to reach out to the local FBI office, right? So that's a deficiency in the program. That might be a nice corrective action, for
I don't want to do any. I don't want to correct anything that's already said right now. We could now, if we let's say we were doing an exercise and it incorrectly assumes something about our system, we could do a corrective action and it would correct that. But I don't want to redirect it right now, just due to time and stuff. So, what system? And I'm answering the SOC. Somebody in the SOC said, "Do we know what systems are isolated? Part of network isolation." Yeah, that's it. So, yep. So, what systems were isolated specifically? And also, I think, I mean, I guess the thing is, that's a good point. Have we even reached out to the vendor? Okay, so yeah, I don't think it's insider threat there, but what I said was, what is the current status? I don't think it was an insider. Yeah, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna take this whole HR insider threat thing out. I'm agreeing with the chat there, and so I'm just kind of saying, hey, let's geofence off the IP addresses for right now. Let's block those IP addresses. And you know what? Might not be probably don't need to geofence it.
Yeah, I have to agree with what the person in the chat said, Deepak, or no, I'm sorry, Deepak. The operators, I'll tell you right now, they don't even really want to get into IT aspects at all, right? They just don't have the time or patience for that. So, and usually they're pretty short-staffed anyway. And if you had an insider, they're going to do something, more drastic than something that has to be done with a cyber. They'll go and put antifreeze in a tank.
Yeah, and I agree with Alex too. Like, what would the insider threat at the vendor be out of scope? Probably not in general, but we don't have but I think by notifying the vendor of what's going on, that should prompt them to check for insider threat on their side for stolen credentials. So, approximately 12 hours have passed, moving into the evening. Great, we're getting pizza, everybody. Or steak, since I'm the stakeholder, right? So,
Control systems and impact. The control systems identified as behaving erratically, specifically those related to the chemical treatment process and water distribution pressure controls, remain isolated from the rest of the network to prevent further unauthorized access or damage. There has been no catastrophic failure or public health impact reported so far, but the functionality of these systems is impaired, which has necessitated a shift to closer manual monitoring to maintain operational integrity. Approximately 12 hours have passed since the start of the incident, moving into the evening. The timeline is moving towards the next day when the alternate technician is scheduled to arrive. Investigation and mitigation efforts. 1. Root cause investigation and system recovery. Your team begins a deeper investigation into the compromised systems to understand the root cause of the intrusion. Initial analysis suggests that the compromise involved exploitation of vendor credentials for unauthorized access, followed by lateral movement within the OT network. A review of available backups for the compromised systems is initiated to assess the feasibility of system restoration. This review aims to identify clean, recent backups that have not been affected by the compromise. The systems isolated include key components of the chemical treatment process controls and the water distribution pressure mechanism. 2. Geofencing and blocking suspicious IPs. Following the identification of external IPs involved in suspicious communications, your team implements measures to block these IPs at the firewall level. Additionally, a geofencing strategy is established to monitor and restrict any traffic coming from regions associated with the suspicious IPs, significantly reducing the risk of further unauthorized access from these sources. 3. Vendor communication. You reach out to the compromised vendor, informing them of the incident and the findings that their credentials were exploited as part of the attack. The vendor is cooperative, expressing concern over the breach and offering their full support. They begin their internal investigation to understand how their credentials were compromised and work with your team to enhance security measures for their remote access in the future. Next steps. With the compromised systems isolated, suspicious IPs blocked, and initial steps taken towards understanding the root cause and planning for system recovery, your focus can now shift towards eradicating any remaining traces of the attackers from your systems and beginning the recovery process. This includes restoring affected systems from clean backups where available, and working with the alternate vendor to ensure the physical security of control systems. Would you like to progress with system restoration where feasible, or are there additional security measures you wish to implement first?
I feel like she's setting a trap. So yes, we'll definitely proceed with restoration where feasible. And by the way, this is very high level. It's truncated for time purposes and stuff like that, which I'm happy with right now. Okay, and then I really want to get this. We're kind of at a loss right here. Without our engineer, I would think that there would be more operators or engineers that can go out there and service the stuff without our lead engineer. Why do we have to wait for a vendor? I don't know. Maybe we're the small plant or something. I'm a little upset about that. There's 3 cybersecurity people and 1 plant engineer. There's something wrong with this.
Yeah, I kind of have to go that way as well, and I'll just go on like the ones that I've done. It's not ubiquitous everywhere, but a lot of times these facilities they come in batches, so you may have like 5 or 6 in a particular region, and so you do have the ability for staff at the other locations to swing over to the other. It's not going to be every time.
The other thing, we should have another on-site engineer.
Right. I'm just saying, even if you don't have an on-site, they may be like 15 miles down the road and they could get over there pretty quickly. Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Because that's the way most regionals do. They're going to have multiple, facilities in a like, San Bernardino is going to have like, 6 or 8 plants, so. Right.
Just coming back to his earlier point about dealing with the FBI or the authorities, there are some advantages in doing that, where C2 addresses and port numbers, outbound port numbers, we can do cyber threat intelligence sharing with the authorities, and we may gain some benefits from other attack patterns that they're aware of that other companies have been exposed to. And it's a two-way street. We provide the threat intelligence of what we've observed in this incident as well. So in Australia, that would be the Australian Director at ACSC, or it would be the FBI CISA, probably in the US.
Exactly. Right. Because a lot of times, there's not that many vendors on the equipment side, and they're water holes, right? Right. So you can. Right. It's a common attack again. That's kind of what the thing was with the one up above Pittsburgh with the thing going after the Israeli company, right? They were just going after a vendor of equipment, and so it sprays, right? And the FBI and other jurisdictional law enforcement will provide good inputs to that. I agree.
Yeah. So I just, anyway, you'll see. I'll show you. I told it, go and proceed with that. And I said, we got to see if there's somebody else that can come out and help, because all night's a long time for something to go wrong.
Yep. Right. And when it comes down to the final denominator, if it really gets tense and you need to, have like a good, brown, like a good scotch.
An on-site engineer dispatch. 1. Restoration from clean backups.
No water.
After thorough review, your team confirms that clean backups are available for the compromised systems, specifically targeting the most critical control systems within the OT network that were isolated. The decision is made to proceed with restoration efforts for these systems, ensuring that all current data and configurations are backed up separately before restoration, to aid in further forensic analysis and to retain anything that might be needed for operational continuity post-restoration. The restoration process is carefully planned and executed during off-peak hours to minimize the impact on water treatment operations. Key systems are gradually brought back online, with extensive monitoring to detect any signs of malicious activity or further compromise. 2. Backup on-site engineer. Recognizing the risk of leaving the plant without on-site technical oversight overnight, especially with critical systems in a compromised state, management is able to locate an in-house engineer who lives nearby and is familiar with the operational technology systems.
Lucky us.
Though not a replacement for the lead engineer or the specialized technician from the alternate vendor, this engineer agrees to be on standby for emergency physical intervention throughout the night. The backup engineer is briefed on the current situation, including the measures taken so far and the systems that have been isolated and are undergoing restoration. They are provided with instructions on how to perform emergency manual overrides and who to contact for various types of technical support. Current status: system restoration from clean backups has begun for the most critical affected systems, with continuous monitoring in place to ensure no signs of compromise. A backup on-site engineer is now on standby for any immediate physical interventions that may be required before the alternate vendor technician arrives. Next steps. As systems are being restored and you have temporary on-site support, this is a crucial time to ensure that all defensive measures are optimal and to prepare for a thorough post-incident review once the immediate threat is mitigated. This could involve refining detection capabilities, reassessing remote access protocols, and planning a debriefing session to extract lessons learned. Would you like to initiate any additional security enhancements or preparations for a post-incident review at this point?
I think considering we're at the top of the hour, that's a very timely ending. And I just want to remind everybody that this is a very truncated, a very simplified, really almost overly simplified water treatment plant tabletop. But I think there's still a lot of lessons learned. I think I'll just go ahead and proceed with the after action part. That's one of the reasons I wanted to get Bruce in here too, is he has extensive knowledge in these systems as well, and he was able to add some input. And I don't know if you heard me earlier, Bruce, but I realized when I went to go send you that message, I realized, oh, you just sent me like 3 or 4 messages that I missed. I was lacking on LinkedIn for the past week.
Yeah. And one thing I think that occurs to me with this, and this is more of a general statement, in the early, shifting left in the design, right, of facilities, it's important to take into consideration these potential later on contingency situations so that you can have all the mechanisms in place in your actual architecture, right? It just,
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll let it read the after action report. This was funny that 85 out of 100. We're also updating the scoring mechanism to where the scoring is a little more variable based on certain things. But I think it's funny.
At least we're consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Clint, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to figure out some way, and I'll leave this to you, where one of the scores, depending on the combination, is the square root of -1, which is the imaginary number. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So she already started reading this, and I just basically cut it off. But so it's just, this is you can go back and read this. The analysis summary was, had swift identification and isolation of compromised systems, effective communication, thanks to our chat as well, proactive measures, all this good stuff. So it would still cost us some money, man hours, emergency vendor support. But whoa! I want a discount. Emergency vendor support. It was their fault. I definitely want a discount on that one. So the one thing I wanted, so areas for improvement, etc. So we got dinged for decision timeliness. I guess it did take us a while it wanted us to move quicker on the mobilization of the backups. And vendor credential management. Wait. That's not our fault. Initial oversight. And that's not our fault. So I would argue with that one. Either way, what I want to do now is give me the it doesn't do this automatically. I'm changing it to where it will. Give me the MITRE attack TTP ID progression / mapping for this. Yeah, I don't think the last two, I agree. I think we got, I'm going to turn this off real quick. Yeah, I think I would argue with that. Anyway, like I said, we got some new updates coming out this week, which will address some of the scoring, address the speed of the latency of the voice and things like that, and some other features we'll have online, like reading a network diagram. So here we go. Basically, this will happen by default too. It'll always give you the so initial access. So spearphishing link, actual public facing application. I think that's, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Hello. I don't want, stop. Hold on. Let me just, I'll turn that off. I accidentally hit the wrong button. Hold on. So apparently also our TTPs need to be adjusted because we, unless this was what they're saying is how they got into the vendor, which is possible. So I think that's what it's saying is like it got into our vendor that way.
And drove the network, yeah.
Yeah, and there's by leveraging vendor credentials. Okay, so everything from here to here is how they got into the vendor. And then everything afterwards was...
So I didn't hear this specifically called out, but I'll also say as a practice, especially on the PLC side, and any digital onboard the equipment, it's a good idea, it's a good practice to have a dedicated set of field configurators that interface to the PLCs, which have your golden configuration in locked and tampered cabinets on site, so that goes to a very clean system restore in a very fast kind of way, and they'll just connect in, on board to the PLCs, and you're done. Right?
Nice, yeah. That's definitely beyond my knowledge. I'm
I'm
certainly not process engineer.
You have them in a cabinet and they're locked,
Yeah.
and somebody goes in every so often and to make sure that all the set points are correct according to specification.
Excellent.
I'm just saying you can connect in very quickly to restore your facility.
And this is the type of input you would have, right? Like if you're doing this in an exercise in your facility, in your water plant or whatever, then obviously, number one, you would have your engineers and your people, to Bruce's knowledge level, during the exercise, which would also be able to provide this input to either adjust the exercise or provide this input prior to the exercise to make sure that you have everything technically correct. But in the end, but like I said earlier, if we're at a position to where, Bruce is our engineer and he says, no, that's kind of incorrect the way it has that, you can correct it on the fly and it'll make those adjustments.
What Alex is saying there, it's a hot PLC config backup for what Alex, yes, that's what I'm kind of saying there, Alex.
Cool. And then also someone is asking, will this session be recorded? So if you're watching this on LinkedIn, it's going to remain on LinkedIn. You'll always be able to refer back to the link that you're accessing it to review it. It's also on YouTube. I will share the YouTube link on LinkedIn as well. But yeah, these remain recorded. You can simply just search for ThreatGEN on YouTube as well and go to the Tabletop Tuesdays playlist, and you'll see them all there. So so we're already 10 minutes after, so we'll go ahead and wrap this up. But again, this was interesting for me because, like I said, I'm not a water expert. I'm glad that Bruce came in and was able to lend his expertise, but it was a learning experience for me nonetheless, kind of playing the part of, hey, I don't know water systems, but I know ICS, I know cybersecurity. So, I'm brought in to this company and boom, before I even get trained, we get hit with this incident and I got to help out. So that was kind of cool. Any final comments?
Well, yeah, one thing I'd say is that this is not, some of what we talked about here is not germane to water. I mean, this could be any specialized environment where you have the specialized equipment. You're going to have these kinds of situations. So, you could have it in oil and gas exploration and production facilities, and, that's just the way it is. And sometimes you may also want to have, though this is a little more difficult because it starts driving a little bit more cost, but diversity of service and engineer supply chain. So you may want to have, this happens like I know in oil and gas exploration in the Permian Basin, you may have 5 or 6 master service agreements, right? So if you had that immediate situation, you can get somebody else on the horn and they're in there like, lightning. You're not just going to wait because somebody is backlogged with vendor A, right? You can go to vendor D.
Yeah, right.
It's best practices. It's running your business effectively. That's all. It's a business thing. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Peter, Gregor, any comments from Germany or Australia?
No, it's a very topical issue, and something. I mean, only in the last 48 hours, the FBI has come out and given further warnings about how critical it is.
Yeah, that's another reason why I wanted to do this, because I know that water treatment systems, wastewater, there's been a big focus on that lately, and I don't know if that's because of the Florida thing that happened or in northern Philly, but I think that in general, water is just getting a lot of flack right now, and they're getting hammered on, and so I think that any resources that we can provide to help with any type of, whether it's preemptive or reactive, security for water systems, I think that it's going to be critical. So anyway,
one
go ahead, Bruce.
One reason it's happening also is more of a geographical and growth problem, right? So because there's so much growth in a lot of metropolitan regions and the strain with certain climate change factors with water, becoming scarcer, it's the intersection of those two things. So yeah, it's a problem, right?
Yep.
Because you have like hundreds of thousands of homes, being built, and there's a lot more people coming around now, and so there's a lot of strain. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and the main message: supply chain attacks. That's what this was about today. So not only the water, but also it's the vendor that brought the bad guys in.
Yeah,
we have that in so many places where we should be more focused.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, thanks guys for joining us on this one. Thanks for returning, both Gregor and Peter, and thanks Bruce for kind of joining last minute. And you added a lot of knowledge to this. And thanks everybody for watching, whether you're watching live or watching on recording. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. And before we end this, I'm going to say, hey, don't forget, if you're going to S4, find me. We got the Hold My Beer Challenge. So basically and I'm going to have my laptop with me the whole time. If you happen to find me at S4 and you want to try to stump Auto Tabletop, we can just try to provide it and it's got to be ethical and not vulgar or offensive, but try to provide a scenario that it can't handle. And if you can, then you win a prize. We'll talk about what those later, but there will be some. I couldn't say it on LinkedIn, but yeah, there will be. I'm on LinkedIn right now, but LinkedIn makes you they'll pull your posts if you talk about providing things, money, compensation, because they want you to pay for the ads for that. But yeah, we'll have gift cards for certain things, and we'll have swag, so both cash and prizes. Not a new car, no, none of that. But find me and we'll have some fun with this and see if we can stump it. But I will tell you, we've gone through a lot of different scenarios. I've had people try to stump me at conferences, and we've done all kind of stuff from mega yachts to Stargates. Yeah. So anyway, so find me and hope to see you there. So everybody, thanks. Take care, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Take care. Bye-bye.